All right, welcome to this lovely video on this lovely Sunday, which I'm repeating because I forgot to turn my microphone on. So you can imagine that I'm super happy with my shroom cup, which is not filled up with any coffee at the moment, but something different. And welcome to this technical Sunday. Maybe we can call it a technical Sunday. I want to make it a thing. I want to have Sundays for the people of the channel, for the members of the Slightly Technical Academy, giving you some updates, responding to some comments, filling in some of the blanks that may have been left unchecked in some of my previous videos, discussing the previous videos, discussing what happened this week, and checking out if there was anything interesting on YouTube, any products, any drama, anything. So we just have, pardon me, we are just going to have an absolutely great time. So I encourage you to spend the next few minutes with me and the shroom cup, sitting and talking about all the things that have happened in the past week. So if you're ready, let's go. All right, so here's the thing I mentioned. There is no coffee in this. I'm making this cocoa. But I have to say that I haven't been drinking coffee for 3 days now, and I feel absolutely amazing. But not from a standpoint of addiction. I'm not really an addictive person, other than I'm addicted to this whole thing, you know, amplifiers, pedals, and that kind of stuff. But really, like, for me, my entire life, I've been smoking since I was like 17, and, you know, I would have pauses that would be like a year long, and sometimes I wouldn't smoke for a week or 2 or 3. I would forget. I don't smoke out of addiction. I never smoke in the mornings, but I love smoking. When people ask me, why do you smoke? I love it. Fuck, I love it. In Serbia, everybody smokes in bars, so it's like, you know, you go to a bar, there's people, there's laughter, you smoke a cigarette. Doesn't get any better, you know. Same thing with coffee. I like my coffees. Like, I like to drink them for like a long time. There's actually a term, I can't actually translate it in my language. It's like social coffee drinking. I like short espressos, but I don't like drinking them really quickly and then moving on like people in Italy do. We like just sitting around all day and drinking the coffee, so I like to take my time with the coffee. And the coffee that we drink is actually Turkish coffee. I understand that a lot of people who are from the States who are watching this channel, most of you don't drink Turkish coffee. But it's like, we call it Turkish coffee, but it's basically the old style coffee that you would find people drinking here in the Balkans or in the Middle East and so on. So I love that stuff. All right, so we have to talk about, okay, first let's quickly talk about some comments that have been made on my videos that I posted in pretty much last week. So I made this video about cables, which was you know, it's one of those videos when you say some things and then you have people who actually stop by from the audiophile world, and then they teach you everything about everything, you know, and cables as well. So it's kind of weird. Most comments have been actually great. People have different experiences with cables. I just want to say, you see, when I say expensive cables, I'm talking about audiophile cables. I never said buy cheap shit cables, you know, just buy good cables. That's what I said in the video. Because some people talk about, you know, expensive cables are for lower noise stuff. And listen, even these normal cables that I'm discussing now have very good shielding, and you don't really need an extremely expensive cable to get a lower noise signal. What I was talking about is that you don't need platinum or silver cables for guitar. That's sort of the point of the video. And I named that video, I gave it a stupid name because otherwise nobody watches shit on YouTube, but the whole idea was just to show you some of the experiments that I can do, like simulations, and, you know, maybe just hear some differences. That was the point. The knowledge was the point. Now, in any case, somebody made a really good comment about a thing that I actually mentioned in the video. And the comment was made by Andrea Lusada. I hope I didn't butcher that. What buffer did David Gilmour use? So I mentioned that in the video. So if you're into DIY, you can go and Google out Cornish buffer. So I think it was Pete Cornish, Pete was the name, who was doing some tech work and working on some of the stuff that Gilmour used back in the 90s, and one of the Cornish pedals, I don't remember which one, actually had like a buffered bypass and it used this Cornish buffer. Now, why is that Cornish buffer cool and why should you check it out? Here's the thing. I mentioned in this video about cables that you don't really need the high frequency content hitting the front end of your amplifier, and that is actually sometimes what happens with pretty much like either like buffers or like these expensive cables, and for various reasons I don't want that. If you like that, that's cool. Now, here's the thing with the Cornish buffer is like, all right, let's back off. Why do we need buffers? Well, we need buffers because we want to run long cables, so we use the buffers so we don't get that high frequency loss. Great. But then when we use buffers, a lot of people don't really like the sound because the high frequency content that you get sort of back is something that you don't, you know, it doesn't really, it's not really like when you're not using the buffer, and a lot of people don't really like that. Now, what Cornish did in his very, very simple BJT buffer design is that he added some capacitor that is going to simulate some cable loss. So you're using the buffer to eliminate cable loss, and then the buffer is simulating cable loss. Does that make any sense to you? No? Well, it actually does make a lot of sense, because the buffer is sort of going to stop the cable loss happening, but it's also going to give you a cut at a certain frequency, which makes, in my opinion, the guitar sound more natural. So go explore the Cornish buffer, because it's a really cool thing. It offers this little cut, but in a way, you know, as the cable runs longer, you're not going to be having like more loss, like that rapid loss that you would normally have without the buffer. If it makes any sense, check the Cornish buffer out. Really cool thing, really cool sound, like a very nice flavor. Oh, and actually I remember now, let me tell you a story. Back in 2017 when I was at GitCon, one of the really cool people who were there was Phil X. And I remember I hung out with Phil, and immediately, because he's like Greek and I'm Serbian, and then, you know, we immediately sort of engaged in the brotherly love thing, and he was like super cool. And one time we sort of ran away from everybody, and I made this very simple pedal before GitCon, and it had like rotary switch with like 6 types of buffers. Because, you know, for me it was weird, because people were talking about like different amplifiers that had all these effects and that kind of stuff, and I was interested in buffers. Like, basically these buffers don't make any fucking difference, other than for me, it's like this, you know, 0.01% that I was interested in. And I sat with Phil and played some guitar and hung out, and I showed him this pedal, and then he was checking out the buffers, and he was interested in the whole thing. And in the end, sort of, we figured out we liked the JFET buffer that I made inside the most. But all of these buffers had a different feel and a different flavor to them. Now, obviously, this is not a huge difference in sound, and for sure some people are not interested in these differences, but it was definitely interesting. It was also interesting for him just, you know, to check out, you know, there was like a MOSFET buffer, a JFET buffer, a few op-amp buffers. There was the Cornish buffer as well, you know, so interesting stuff. Might do a video about that. Now, I want to move on quickly. There was another comment that I want to quickly address on the top 5 audiophile myths guitarists should ignore. Ridiculous name, I know. So, Hayes Anderson, thank you, Hayes, one of the people who are part of the family. He is regularly supporting my videos and the channel, commenting really good stuff. He, I don't want to read the comment, but he actually mentioned some terms which he put under quotes. I understand why. He was mentioning transparent overdrives are widely considered to be flat, right? Quotes. And he also... he also mentioned, but I think it's valid to choose to boost your entire singing without adding color to. Now, the whole comment is quite long, and he makes a point. Now, what I want to say here, this whole flat discussion is kind of ridiculous, you know, because in some of these previous videos when I was doing some of the LT Spice simulations and that kind of stuff, and I mentioned something flat, I don't want to get into all the psychoacoustics about it. because we don't really have time for that now. We have to take it a little bit slower because not everybody is like totally into these things. But talking about flat is not exactly the best idea. Not even in pro audio and hi-fi, even then, flat is an extremely complicated thing to achieve. But when it comes to guitar pedals, it's absolutely ridiculous talking about flat because nothing's flat. And the transparent overdrives are not flat. If you take a King of Tone, for example, you will realize that it's very low bass, and it basically, it's almost like linear. It has a linear curve that goes up in the frequency range. As the frequency increases, the amplitude also increases. What I want to say is that when you turn a King of Tone on, technically the pedal is not flat, but it's like it doesn't add a lot of color. That's absolutely true. Very interesting design, but it's very interesting also how you achieve it, and it's also very interesting because that whole thing that works on a single amplifier, it doesn't work on another amplifier. In general, the King of Tone, if I remember correctly, it is supposed to be doing like a Fender thing. It's supposed to be used on Fender amps to make the Fender amp sound cranked. But on the Marshall, it does a completely different thing. Now, Timmy's also considered transparent overdrives. They're not really transparent, you know. They have far more bass than the King of Tone, and you know, they have a little bit of a different top end. But in general, they don't have. When people consider these overdrives transparent, they usually refer to something that doesn't have a high cut like a treble booster, which is again far from flat. So yeah, that's just like my take on it. And you know, the whole adding color thing is like a little bit also ridiculous because pretty much everything adds color to your sound. But I definitely understand there are certain pedals that kind of feel a little bit more natural, that don't impose their sound on the amplifier, and there are certain pedals that do exactly that, but it also depends on the amplifier. From my experience, some amplifiers take some pedals, just like take any pedal and always sound like that amplifier, and some amplifiers are like a chameleon. They can sort of change when you engage different pedals. And in any case, that's sort of my take on it. Now, what were some other things that I actually wanted to mention? So on the Slightly Technical Academy, today we actually had some issues. Somebody had issues reaching the free Tonex packs, but that's because the developers are currently working on, we are migrating to a new like membership platform. We're sort of doing some improvements, and I'm currently working on my first course, which I think is going to end up absolutely amazing because it's going to be ridiculously detailed and long, but I think it's going to be really cool. And look what I got. I actually got this. Look at this ridiculous thing. This is one of my first pedals, if not my first pedal, all right, made like, I don't know, 15 years ago or something like that. And that it's a Big Muff, all right? And it actually sounds really good. It sounds really good and has some of these switches. If I remember correctly, this was some kind of switch in the that changes stuff in the tone stack. The kind of like a mid-range boost, interesting. And here I added a buffer because I was very green back then. But if I remember correctly, I think the buffer is added after the circuit and you can sort of engage it. And I gifted this pedal to my best friend. So I just took this pedal from him because I want to have it for the course, because we're going to be exploring different Big Muff circuits and building some and stuff like that. Now, another pedal, which is quite dusty, that I have over here, something that we've kind of found, not in the trash, but pretty much on the market, which is one of those early 2000s Big Muffs, and this one also sounds great. It's one of these pedals that, you know, every single one of them is going to sound a little bit different, but this one sounds different. It sort of sounds original. It's completely different from the one that I made like 15 years ago, or any of the other ones which I made after that. But basically, really interesting stuff. So that's going to be happening on the Academy. New course is coming out really soon, and it's going to be like a DIY audio, like pedal building course that encompasses absolutely everything for you to build a Big Muff. But in general, how to build a pedal, although I just wanted to do my courses, I want to delve like deep into these things. I don't want to make them, you know, sometimes on YouTube I have to simplify things, but in these courses I actually want to go balls deep and talk about all the different kinds of mods and stuff that you're really not going to find on like forums and stuff like that, like just sharing all the experiences that I gathered over the years. So I think it's going to be really interesting. And after that, I actually want to make a series of courses on different pedal designs, especially the ones that I had a lot of experience with. So I think that stuff is going to be interesting. Furthermore, I uploaded my Sound City Tonex packs for all the people who are interested in the Tonex packs, and thank you, so huge thanks for everybody who is supporting the channel by buying some of these packs. I think that people will be really satisfied with these because they are so like detailed, so many tone models. And the Tonex actually sounds really good. I use the plugin all the time, and I'm really satisfied with this stuff, so I don't have to, you know, go grab my amplifier, plug it in, power station, and blah, 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 you know. All these amps are like DI captures, so you can use them with your own impulse responses, and they're like really detailed, a lot of captures. So the Sound City is up, and what's interesting about that is that Sound City is basically a high watt DR103 because I modified the whole thing, I reworked the whole thing. We'll make a video about that amplifier. And then there is like the other pack, which is like modded, you know, DR103, where I implemented some of my mods, like raising the gain and just changing the gain structure. It's my amplifier. It's my absolutely favorite amp. And I think these tone models actually sound great, and it's a unique sound. It's something that you don't really get every day. I mean, it's in the school of high watt. You understand that there was like Fortin made this, what was like a high watt 50. Quite interesting. I don't know what he did. I did like my mod, right? I was not copying any other mod, but I'm pretty sure that it's sort of in the ballpark, you know. I mean, there's just a finite number of things that you can do, you know. We're not reinventing the wheel, all right? But that's kind of that thing. I think it sounds really good. Also, like there's some high gain Marshall Tonex models, like new pack up, and from all of these packs there is a free profile, so go check it out, because I think that, you know, you can just register over there, get it for free. Really like useful sounds. So that's about what's happening on the Slightly Technical Academy. Now, what has been happening on YouTube? What has been happening on YouTube? I don't know. You have to tell me, because you know, I feel like nothing happened on YouTube the last few, maybe last couple of weeks. Or last week. It's sort of weird. It's a weird time. I think I had a really hard week. I don't know about you guys, but and this is not, you know, like complaining. I feel like everybody is having a really hard time. The whole planet is going through hardships, and there are so many things on our minds, and I think we are so blessed as guitar players and people who love these things. Come on, man, like we can always run away from life and just engage in some pedal and amplifier business and get some rest for our soul, you know what I mean? It's just, come on, it's ridiculous what's happening, and there's a lot of pressure from everywhere. And honestly, I don't know how you guys are holding up. I hope that everybody is like safe and good, and you know, just take care. Take care. Don't give in to all this bullshit that, you know, they're like pressuring us from the media with, and you know, come on. There was a lot of talk on YouTube. I saw there were some videos regarding this, you know, it's like a political thing regarding like guitar gear getting expensive and stuff like that. And you know, since we are absolutely apolitical on this channel, which is something that, you know, it's supposed to stay that way, it is interesting that, you know, stuff is changing economically, geopolitically in the world, and we are sort of like, in a way, we're not victims, but it's just what's happening, you know. And I understand it's like a change for a lot of people, and it's a little bit weird, and for sure prices of instruments, and not instruments, just guitar gear, will change. Like prices of everything is going to change, you know. Like the guitar gear is not even though it's a huge part of my life, you know, but it's not the most important thing. Like there are so many important things that are happening at the moment. Like what can we do if the prices of the pedals change or whatever? So it is what is happening. Now, the only product that I have seen launched last week was the actual Tone King Imperial tri-tube preamp. Now I saw this video by Michael Nielsen. I have it in front of me. I love Michael Nielsen's videos. I saw Pete Thorne did this one. Like everybody who is working on gear, they do this. Like obviously we got like, you know, I don't know how many of these reviews of this preamp pedal, and it's great. I think they had some kind of preamp thing happening before. It's sort of similar to the Friedman IRX. I don't know the price, I don't care, to be honest, but you know, I actually figured out maybe we could say a few words about that type of product, because we are talking about like a preamp, a tube preamp, which is an absolute great thing. And I have here in front of me a tube preamp, which used to be a tube preamp. It's called a Ptero driver by a company called Yerasov, somewhere from Russia. So I bought this thing for like $100. It sounded absolutely terrible because the voicing is like, I don't know, it's weird. Fuzzy, and the frequency response was also like quite weird. Maybe I get it. It had so much gain. I think it would be good for some kind of underground, black, dark, evil metal thing. Whatever, just didn't work with me. So I did obviously a lot of mods, mods that I absolutely destroyed the PCB. All right. So basically, what I wanted to show you is that this pedal, even though you can see that there's quite a mess over here, this pedal is actually built so well. It had a really good power supply, a really clean power supply for the tubes. It, like all the components selected, the way how it's laid out, I understand it's like some kind of circular, I have no idea why they did that. But what I wanted to say is that such a product, even though it didn't really sound that good, was made really, really well. Really well, technically thought, thought out. Everything was done correctly, because I know a lot of things, a lot of gear is actually not technically just like executed well. This is like really good. They even paid attention to all the caps that were used, and everything about this pedal was great, but it sounded like shit because the voicing was I just feel like the voicing was off, therefore I had to obviously mod the shit out of it. And yeah, but you know, there are some products that actually sound great, but they're not really technically executed well. So I think that it's very important to strike some kind of you know, there needs to be some middle ground, obviously. But I don't know, maybe this was designed for somebody else, somebody who, you know, likes different styles of music, stuff like that. So in any case, I wanted to show you that because like 10 years ago, I got this thing, I modded the shit out of it, I gigged with it. It was quite interesting, you know. Back in the day, I couldn't actually afford anything better, you know, but, you know, I would just work with what I had, practically. But I remember some other Russian companies, like there's this AMT, I think it's also a Russian company, also very well executed, but I never really liked the voicing. It was a little bit heavy metal to me. But I'm sure that you guys tried it and that it sounded good, but the execution, I feel like, was really good, really high quality stuff. This one as well. So basically that's it. I'm just looking at YouTube if there was anything. Oh yeah, there were some videos. All right, I see the Friedman IRX. Right, I actually, there we go. I'm going crazy. I actually started talking about the Triamp. Now the Triamp is a tube preamplifier, which I think it's absolutely amazing. Like the general idea behind these preamplifiers is fabulous, because that triamp is pretty much very similar to what Friedman did with this IRX kind of thing, where it is a great tool for people who are not really into like modelers and that kind of stuff. If they like to switch over to something smaller, they don't want to like carry their tube amp and stuff like that, then it offers you like real analog, like tube preamplifier sounds, and then they utilize all the possible combinations of all the modern stuff that we use today, like the IRs, like all these power amp simulations, and then you have all these other switches and whatever, I don't even know what they have, like effects loops and stuff, like you can run it directly into the mix, you can run it into the amplifier, like all this good stuff. And I feel like these products, like these are the products that I would gig if I wanted to gig now. Small pedal board, and I would use these products as like a foundation. For example, because I'm not really a modeler guy, so I don't like doing that whole thing. But this is, in my opinion, a really good thing. Whether it's a Friedman, any of the Friedmans, because they also have different voicings, or this Tone King thing. I think that's really good. Tube preamplifiers, great, and yeah, that's pretty much everything I want to say about that. Yeah, there was some talk this week about reamping. I saw this video from Christian Cole Audio Cult. Interesting YouTube channel, actually, knowledgeable guy, producer, like he's absolutely great. If you're not following him, just go check out Cole Audio Cult, I think that's what it's called. Makes really great videos and really great noises, and like especially like the, you know, like the high gain stuff, brutally sounding metal stuff, really cool. And he actually made a video about reamping, and he was actually talking about the reamp boxes, like do you need the reamp box, and he was doing some noise tests and stuff like that. Kind of inspired me to maybe also make something about reamping, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it just yet. I feel like there are some technical things that I can contribute to the world of reamping, because there are some things that are misunderstood when it comes to reamping, and reamping can sometimes be far harder than people realize, especially if you're doing like what I was doing, like DI captures of amplifiers. Stuff can get really sensitive and noisy and fucked up, you know, and there are a lot of things that need to be considered when it comes to reamping. Plus the whole thing that also Christian mentioned in his video was something regarding impedance and stuff. And the only thing that I'm gonna say in this video is that none of these reamping boxes that I know of does the impedance thing correctly, like fully correctly. All right, they do a decent thing, and for sure you can, you know, plug it in your amplifier and it's going to work. But some sensitive amplifiers, high volumes, stuff like that, you can get into a lot of trouble. And plus, it's actually quite different from when you're using just the cable in the guitar. There is some work that needs to be done to make it like similar, but it's very hard to make it the same, because that's why I also built some small circuits that I'm actually, not circuits that I'm actually using for this, to sort of compensate for this change in sound. And I feel like that stuff is like really good, but it's something that I want to actually talk to you guys about in some of the future videos. And yeah, actually take a look at this guitar. I am going to make a video about this guitar. So you saw this guitar, but what you didn't, well, you saw everything, but what you didn't hear is that I actually did some new electronics for this guitar. So because of various reasons that I didn't like, and this is my, like, this is my love of my life. Luckily my girlfriend is not watching these videos, but basically I had to do a rework of the electronics. I had the first version, and then I actually finished the second version last week, and I'm so happy with this because it is something that I want to show you guys, and I might be even like organizing to release. We have to figure out how that's gonna work, but basically it is quite interesting because with this electronics, not only that the guitar sounds different, it sounds absolutely great. The tone control is something that you've probably never heard of before, and it is something that can be implemented in pretty much any guitar. So I'm actually looking forward to making a video about that. I want to do like a produced track, so it's something that I'm going to be working on next week. So basically, I think that I've been talking too much. 30 minutes mark. I thank everybody for watching. I thank everybody for subscribing and supporting the channel and liking the videos and all that kind of stuff. I'll be seeing you in the next video extremely very soon. Bye.